They just had Kel'el Ware out there as well, and we're all very excited for his second year. This man right here, Alonzo Mourning, basically like took a couple days after drafted, we saw Alonzo Mourning having a meal with Kel'el Ware, taking him under his wing just to kind of welcome him into the Heat way. And I'm sure he's had to be thrilled to see what Kel'el Ware did in his rookie year. Alonzo Mourning, thanks for sitting down with us. Really appreciate you.
Pleasure, gentlemen.
What do you remember about that first meal with Kel'el Ware when after he got drafted, you welcome him into the Heat family, and what have you thought about the first year that he's had down here?
Well, my first words to him were welcome and let's get to work. And I told him, I said, you have the potential. You have the potential to be one of the greatest players in Miami Heat franchise history. I said, you have that potential. And I said, but you got to put in the work, and that's how we started off the conversation, and he's done just that. A lot of people fail to realize that he's 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you think about, how he started the season and how he ended it, he's made incredible strides, So if we can continue to see that type of progress, then, we're on our way as a franchise.
What does that balance look like, though? He couldn't really find his way into the rotation. Then all of a sudden, he's starting. He's being talked about as Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And the Heat, at that time, though, they're looking for some help scoring the basketball.
Sure.
They obviously want him and Bam to coexist on the floor together. Bam has to shift over and play a whole new role.
Right.
How tough is it for not only a rookie but anybody to have to balance, okay, I need to help my team scoring. He can do that, but I also need to be a force down low while also just, hey, I'm a rookie trying to learn my way through the league.
Well, it's a step-by-step process. We know his skill level. We see it on a regular basis, especially when he's in practice. We see signs of the greatness. Now it's about putting in the work and developing a level of consistency. And that's just going to happen with time. Again, I echo this. He just turned 20. So it's not, it ain't but so much you can expect from a 20-year-old kid, especially with the pressures of the media and the coaches in his ear all the time, and traveling to different cities and the crowds and the fans. It's just a whole lot to digest. It really is, but he's got a bright future. He really does. And mentally, he's in the right place, because, it didn't take too long where he was back in the gym after the season was over with and, getting the reps in and doing what he needs to do to be prepared for next season, So we're excited about his growth. We really are. We're excited about his growth, and this summer I've already seen him get better this summer, just in his workouts, and so he doesn't have to be here. This is his time off. But that kind of speaks volumes that, he's kind of blocked out all the distractions as a kid.
So you've seen him here a lot. Like he's been in the gym like crazy this summer.
He's been in the gym, and he's just putting the work in, so and he knows he's got to get stronger, and improve a lot of different parts of his game, and he's working on it. So I'm very happy and excited to see his development going into next year.
There's no question in anybody's mind you were a phenomenal player from the moment you stepped on the floor in the NBA,
Right.
But you obviously made strides between your first year and your second year.
Yeah.
What strides did you make that you hope he makes from year one to year number two?
To get stronger, we noticed the physicality of the game affected him a lot. It really did, and I could name several games, where he got moved a little bit too easily in that center position.
We know because Spo called timeout every time.
Yeah. So he got moved around a couple of times, and he's just got to get a little bit more comfortable with his body, and from that perspective. But outside of that, his shot is there, and that's improving. And we just need him to be an ultimate defensive force in that paint, especially utilizing his length his God-given length that he has and his athleticism. You know, he could be a phenomenal defensive force. But again, his body has to get stronger, you know, and once his body gets stronger, he'll get a little bit more confident in some of the things that he's capable of doing.
Alonzo Mourning, no spoilers, but when you see these workouts, you guys bring in these kids.
Right.
Is there a certain trait you like to see from these guys? Is there something that maybe either you particular or you guys as an organization that like, all right, we know we could have something to work here with?
Well, first of all, I mean, you look at skill level, number one, and then with the combination of their mental approach to the workouts, you know, and you know, putting these players through these strenuous workouts, you want to see how they respond. And you know, when you got a table full of scouts and executives sitting over there on the side watching you, it becomes a little intimidating, you know, when you're in the gym, you know, so you're trying to do your best, you know, and we want to see how, you know, these players respond under those circumstances, you know, and it speaks volumes. It really does. It really does speak volumes on how they respond in those situations, you know. But, you know, you got players that have been great in this league that had bad workouts as well. You know what I'm saying? So you got to get lucky. You know, you really do. You got to get lucky, you know. And I look at guys like Nico that was taken 27th. I look at Jaime, who was taken 18th, and then I look at Tyler, who was taken 10th. I mean, the list goes on. You look at Bam, 14th, you know, and Bam, we didn't realize that Bam is, you know, one day we're going to hang Bam's jersey in the Raptors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we didn't see that, you know, when we drafted him, you know. So you never really know. You never really know. But you do your due diligence, which our front office does. They do an incredible job.
Of course.
Yeah, they do an incredible job, you know, and then you introduce them to our development team and see how they respond, you know, and it's a growth step-by-step process. And you saw that with Kel'el, you know, how he catapulted into the starting lineup by the middle of the season, you know, but it was a process.
Zoe, before we let you go again, Alonzo Mourning, Vice President of Player Programs and Development, Heat legend, number 33.
Yeah.
Let me take you back.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer.
That. Come on.
Yeah, that's right.
Among many accolades.
Hey.
June 24th, Memorial Coliseum in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
I was looking at video yesterday on YouTube, but there was just like blue tarp everywhere. The pomp and circumstance a little different. What do you remember about that day, being drafted to that Hornets team, going second overall, in the spirit of the draft tonight? What do you remember about being at Memorial Coliseum in the 1992 NBA draft?
A lot of nervous energy, excitement as well, because I knew I was ready because, you know, after competing against Patrick and Dikembe all those summers, I knew that if I could go against those guys, then I could play in the league. You know?
Of course.
So I had a certain level of confidence because I was ready to go. You know, I was like a young stallion, you know, ready to be let out of the cage. You know,
you were dressed like a stallion too, by the way.
I appreciate it. You know, so you know, and Big John, I had the best coach in that situation, who played in the NBA, played behind Bill Russell, who instilled all these qualities in me, and I knew I was prepared and ready to go.
Alonzo Mourning, thank you so much for taking the time, sitting down with us. We look forward to finding out who the next member of the Miami Heat organization will be.
Yes, sir.
So you can toughen him up a little bit as well.
My pleasure, gentlemen. Yes.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate you, though. Thank you.
There you go. Alonzo Mourning. Tommy, thank you for reminding me. I forgot. Hall of Famer. Appreciate you keeping me in check there.
I think he enjoys that as well. That's kind of like the defining moment in a man's career.
It's a pretty good accolade.
Yeah, pretty good. Right up there, I think, with any.
No doubt about it.